All right, we are back live. Shout out to everyone. Shout out to all the subscribers, everyone that was here last night, all the new subscribers that were here last night. Um, welcome. And we're back. We're going to talk a little bit about yesterday's fights before we move on to Errol Spence and your Dennis Ugas, who's fighting this Saturday. I should be able to cover the fight live this Saturday. So you'll see me back on then. But before we go on with that, we're going to go over all of the fights or most of the fights over the weekend. We're going to talk a little Triple G. We're going to talk a little bit of Lubin, and we're going to talk a little bit on Ryan Garcia in 135, and then we're going to move on into the welterweight division and talk about the upcoming fights this weekend because we got a monster card on that Errol Spence, your Dennis Ugas card. That's a monster card. It's a pay-per-view, but it's well worth the money. It has a lot of good fights on that undercard, and I think it's definitely worth the purchase. But we'll get to that later on in this video. If you guys have been here the last couple of days, I've been discussing Triple G's fight, and I did cover the fights live last night. Now, I haven't been able to watch the top rank card. I haven't gotten around to that card. There was a top rank card with Michaela Mayer last night, but I covered the Showtime and the Zone card. So I just didn't have enough room to cover that, and I haven't been able to go back and like watch those fights yet. So if there's anything that stood out, I might bring it up later. But for now, I just haven't had the time to get around to that card. All right. What's up, Drummond for Life? What's good? Salute. So let's get into it. And we're gonna start it off with Triple G, which was the first fight of the weekend, early Saturday morning against Ryota Murata in Japan. All right, it was about 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern or 5 a.m. Eastern. All right. So look, I'm gonna just wrap it up because I did a review of that fight already. I was able to read a lot of the comments. I know so there were some people out there that were complaining, just a couple people. I don't want to make it seem like it was a whole mob of people, but there was a couple people out there that were complaining about me not addressing the low blows in that fight. I guess the reason why I didn't really address it because I didn't think it was excessive and I didn't think it was a major factor in the fight. I think Murata did land a couple of low blows, but the body shots that I've seen in this fight was on the belt line, and they weren't below the belt line. They looked like they were clean punches to me on the side or right on the center of the G's. Okay. So I don't think outside of, I know there was like one or two in the second round, maybe the one that he was warned about. But after that, I didn't really see any like clear low blows that really changed the fight, and that's the reason why I didn't bring it up. I think Murata did a good job in going to the body. I thought his punches was clean, and excuse me, I thought it was a good, fair, clean fight. Outside of a couple of low blows, I didn't think it was excessive to a point where I had to bring it up. I thought the fight was clean. And the fight was competitive based on Murata's style and because of Triple G being older. Like, I don't want to make excuses. Like, I feel like a lot of fans, they want to make excuses on why the fight was as competitive as it was or why Triple G was backing up early in the fight. I'm not going to do that. I support Triple G. I'm a big Triple G fan. I've been for years. But I'm going to say how it is. I'm going to call it out how it is. Triple G is still very, very good, but he's past his prime. I mean, he's 40 years old, and he hasn't been that active, and he's still very good. And I think the Canelo fight, the trilogy, still will be a good fight. I just don't think he'll have any more of a chance that he's already had. I think his best chances was in the first fight, was in the rematch. Like 4 years later, after Canelo has been fighting bigger guys, better guys than Triple G has been facing the last 4 fights of his, I think Triple G just doesn't have a chance of winning. The fight should still be good though. All right. What's up, Contender Regime? What's good, bro? Hope everything is good, man. I know you ready for this fight this weekend. But yeah, I can't wait to do a breakdown for the fight. This video is just to just intro the fight week. Monster card, major, and I was saying that earlier, is a major undercard on this Spence Ugas fight coming up this weekend. So definitely going to be here going live talking about it, and definitely going to drop a breakdown probably. I'll probably going to start doing my film study today. Hopefully I could get it out by tomorrow, maybe Tuesday the latest, but looking forward to it. What's up, Anzi? What's up, Coach Ben? Was good. But yeah, with Triple G, listen, it's nothing to be disappointed about. Um, it was a good competitive fight, and Murata's tough and he's very durable. And I think that's part of the reason why it was such a tough fight, because of the age advantage that Murata had. His style, come forward, heavy-handed, takes a good punch, and that's the reason why it was so competitive, but it caught up to him, and that's exactly why it was so competitive, because or that's exactly why Murata lost the fight the way he did, because he had to take so much punishment in order to keep the fight competitive. Those first 6 rounds, or up to the 6th round, it was competitive because Murata was taking a lot of damage and giving some back, but he couldn't maintain it. Once that 6th round came, it was over. Triple G started really letting off, and Murata just couldn't hang. You already saw the bruises and the markings on his face. How many of those jabs are you going to tank? Even if you're walking through them, you're walking through them early, but wait till you start feeling them shits, and I think that's why the fight was it ended the way that it did. It was a good fight though. Nothing to, I think, not for nothing, I don't think Triple G will ever fight Jamal, I'm sorry, and Andre. I think that's done. I think there was an opportunity where Triple G could have fought those guys. I don't think he's ever really been interested in fighting those guys. People talk about unification. At the end of the day, he's not going to fight them. I'm disappointed about that, because I would have loved to see Jamal or Andre get that shot at Triple G. And I also want to see Jamal and Andre fight each other. Andre is looking to go up to 168. And Triple G is too. I don't know. I'm thinking if Triple G loses to Canelo, I think he's gonna retire. But at the end of the day, I think Murata would still be a good fight for Jamal Charlo or a Demetrius Andre or any other, or Janabek or whoever else is at the top of 160. But yeah, I wish I got those fights like everyone else, but it is what it is. I'm not going to keep complaining. I've been talking about these fights for years. In 2022, I can't keep getting mad over the fact that Jamal and Triple G didn't fight, or Andre and Triple G didn't fight. I think it sucks. But it is what it is. Same thing with Canelo Alvarez. I wish I wanted those fights since 154, even before Triple G. Feel me? Condo Local Sports, what's up, brother? Everything is good on my end. I hope everything is good with you. Boxing Gems, what's up, my man? What's good? Hope you had a good time watching the fights. I think you went off the cover of the fights yourself. So definitely a good night of fights. Eddie Morales is in the building, was good. Deuce, what's up? Coach Ben says, if Triple G fights Charlo or Andre and one, would it be better for his legacy instead of taking the third Canelo fight? I think a win versus one of those guys would be like Pac beating Thurman, and I agree. And there are people, like, I think I seen a tweet this morning. I forgot who said it. I think it might have been Michael Benson or Michael Coppinger or one of those guys. I seen them saying, like, people didn't want Fury and Wilder 3. People didn't want Pacquiao and Marquez 3. But they were great fights, especially because we got Pacquiao and Marquez 4, and we saw what happened in that fight. So I get that. Those fights are great fights, but we're going into the fight already thinking like, oh, Canelo's going to win this fight. I would like to see something new. As good as this third fight will probably be, it might even be the best one out of the trilogy. You never know. I still would love to see Triple G fight Andre or Charlo, because it never happened. It just never happened. And it's a fight that we've been asking for. for a long time, or Canelo fight one of those two. Again, we're talking 154 days with Canelo. These are fights that I wanted to see back then. So I think when people say they don't want to see a trilogy, it's because we already got two of the fights. The second one was 4 years ago, and one of the two fighters is 40 years old. If he didn't get the job done in the first two, I don't think he's likely to get it done in the third time round. Regardless of how you feel, regardless if you think Triple G won, and listen, I'm not mad at it. I said when they announced this 2-fight deal that they were doing with Bivol and Triple G with Canelo, I said I'm cool with that. Those are good fights. I think Bivol is actually more dangerous than Andre and Jamal Charles. That's just the way I see it. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to get everything I want. And Triple G, in my opinion, was the better between, if you take both fights that he had with Canelo, I think Triple G did more in those two fights that we got. So is he deserving of a third fight, at Canelo? Absolutely. But do I want to see it? No, I don't want to see it. Will it be a good fight? Probably, but I'm not asking for it. I'm asking for Charlo. I'm asking for Andre. And I think Triple G having another win with one of those undefeated fighters will do better for his legacy. Now, if you think that Triple G has if you honestly believe that he has a great chance of winning the third fight, then you'll think totally different, because beating Canelo would be great to have on your resume. But do you really think Triple G, in my opinion, would have to knock Canelo out to beat Canelo? And I don't think he's capable of knocking out Canelo. Not at this point. Just my opinion though. All right. So let's move on. Let's go through the Ryan Garcia card first. We gonna start out with that. Just real quick, that fight between Esparza and Fujioka. I think that has to be one of the worst scorecards I've seen like recently. And I say that because I literally thought at the end of that fight that it probably was going to be a draw. I thought it could either go either way. I was going to be fine with a draw, or whatever way they decided to, whoever they was going to give the winner that fight to. But for two judges to not score one round to Fujioka, not one out of a 10-round fight, that is probably one of the worst robberies I've seen. Like, you literally gave this woman no rounds. And there were rounds in there that Esparza took off. It was just like she took the round off. And you still feel like she won every round. That was probably one of the worst robberies. I know people is not going to go anywhere. It's not going to be investigated. It's not going to be, no one's going to complain about it, because they're in Texas. Esparza is Mexican. Then no one's going to say anything. It's not going to go anywhere. But if you didn't see the fight, I personally didn't like the fight. It was just way too scrappy, like way too messy for me. It wasn't an entertaining fight. It was a lot of, listen, they were both definitely letting their hands go, but it was a real scrappy fight, a lot of holding, not a lot of clean punching, all right? But at the end of the day, there's no way Esparza won every round. And not only, it wasn't just one judge. There were two judges that gave her no rounds. And then there was one judge that scored it a draw, which is pretty much what I figured it was going to be. I don't think there was a clear winner in that fight. I think the rounds were extremely hard and difficult to judge for the most part. All right. But it's not going to go anywhere. But if you are interested in checking that out, and you do like watching female boxing, I would check out that fight, because there's no way in hell that fight was a clear win for Esparza, especially every single round. You know, I mean, you couldn't give her one round, not one. Like, that's crazy to me. All right. So anyway, let's move on. Who else fought? Now, Shane Mosley Jr. beats Gabe Rosado, and I thought he won very clear. You know, I think I believe it was a 10. Let me look it up real quick. I believe it was a 10 rounder. Okay, it was a 10 rounder. And I forgot what sanctioning body sanctioned that fight. I know that they fought with some kind of intercontinental American junior belt. I don't know which body it was, but I've never, like, listen, I've been watching Shane Mosley Jr. since he's gone pro, just off the strength of who his father is. I'm a big Shane Mosley fan, one of my favorite all-time favorite boxers. I've been watching this kid since he's been pro. I've seen him take L's, and I've seen him lose the same way, which with every fight. Very easy to hit. Just doesn't move his head. That's his biggest issue. He's very easy to get, very easy to hit. Fun fighter to watch. Is in there. He's tough. He got a chin. He can take a punch. But I don't know what happened in this camp leading up to this fight, but he looked like a completely different fighter. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen someone change that much in like one fight, and I don't even think I've seen his very last fight. Maybe I did. You know what? Let me see who he fought last. Shane Mosley Jr. Let me click on his name. See, I think I did watch his loss against Jason Quigley. I did watch that fight. I remember watching that fight. I've seen that loss. And that wasn't the same person last night. I'm telling you right now, that was the best Shane Mosley I've seen. And Gabe had nothing for him. It was good. It was competitive. But Shane, especially the first half, he was clearly winning every round. I think he started to slow down a little bit, so it became a little bit more competitive the later the fight went. But Shane looked incredible last night. I mean, out of nowhere, he went from not even being mentioned to people started throwing names of people they want to see him face. That's at the top at 168. All right. Very entertaining fight. I mean, Gabe, he always brings a good fight because he's always making adjustments. He was trying to box with Shane on the outside. And once he was getting outpointed, he tried to come in and be a little bit more aggressive on the inside. And even Shane did well on the inside. It was a good fight, man. It sucked because the crowd was booing. The crowd was really like annoying me all last night with that fight because it was a good fight, but the crowd was just booing. They was doing like the wave in the crowd. They was making all this noise. Then they went back to booing. It was kind of annoying. But let me read some of you guys' thoughts. I know you guys been dropping a lot of comments here. Boston Jim says, saying people sleeping on Bevo's skill set matchup with Canelo's. Would love to see Triple G versus Andre or Charlo. Absolutely. Corey Davis says Triple G might move back down to defend his titles or retires on a win. He'll still be unified champ. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maddie says, what's up, Andrew? Maddie says, if Canelo beat Bivol, the next step is better BF, not Triple G. No, what he said was if Triple G was to lose or get injured in this fight against Murata, he said that he would be interested in fighting Better BF if Better BF is to beat Joe Smith Jr. or the winner of that fight. And so that's exactly what he said. He's already signed to fight Triple G after Murata if they both win their matches. All right. Dude says Ryan's going to get criticized for that performance, but it's hard to KO someone who is just trying to survive. Absolutely. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. Just hold off. I'm definitely going to talk about that fight. Dude also says, I like Esparza, but she didn't win that wide. Not even close. No. Even if you picked her to win, It wasn't a wide win. All right. To not give that woman one round at it, that was just ridiculous. Eddie Morales says it's Triple G getting knocked out. I think it's possible. You know, I can see him getting caught with a shot to the body that can put him down. But I don't know. I don't think I would predict him to get knocked out, though. I would think I would probably predict him to maybe take a knee at some point, maybe take a knee. But you know, I don't think he's going to get knocked out. But I do believe that Canelo's going to win the trilogy. Boxing Jim says Rosado versus Mosley Jr. was excellent. Harrison had one of the best performances I've seen him have. And Lubin Fundora was a dope fight. Great night of boxing. Yeah, absolutely. All, for the most part, good fights. And Fujioka is 46 years old. Yeah, she's 46, and she had better cardio and conditioning than Esparza. I mean, she just never stopped. She never slowed down. Just that a lot of the punches she was throwing weren't really that effective. You know, but the fact that she can fight at that level for that long, you know, at that rate was very impressive at 46 years old, you know. Yeah, Twin says Mosley Jr. lost to Quigley. WTF, he has come a long way. Yeah, and that was his very last. That was just last year. That was in 2021, you know. Eddie Morales says it's going to be Zoo against Harrison next. I can see it. Yeah, I can see that too. And it's not a bad fight, especially Harrison performing like that. But I'm gonna get to Harrison in a bit. All right. All right. So look, let's talk. Let's talk. Just to close it out with Shane Mosley. I would be interested in seeing him not fight a former champ, but someone I still want to see a little bit more. You know, that's one really good win. Uh, Probably against the best performance. Like that's definitely his best performance. But Gabe is probably the best fighter he's faced. You know, Quigley and Brandon Adams are probably the other two best fighters Shane has faced in the past, and he lost those fights. But Gabe Rosado is clearly the most experienced out of all of those guys. So it's a good win, but I want to see more, you know. And like someone said last night, I can see like what's this guy Jaime Munguia fighting a Shane Mosley Jr. You know, I can see that fight because that's like the kind of fighters that like Oscar likes to go after for his fighters. You know, very predictable. All right, so Young Hollywood asked, will Triple G have to vacate to get Canelo? I don't believe so. You can fight above his weight as long as he doesn't have any mandatories. And you know, if they don't push for the mandatory, I think he should be good. But we just gotta wait and see how that's gonna play out. All right. I don't know how that's gonna work. I believe Triple G does have a mandatory though for one of those titles. All right. I don't know which one, but I'll talk about it later. So anyway, let's talk about King Rye. Saw the fight yesterday, wasn't impressed. Kind of like, you know, the last few rounds, I started covering the Lubin fight and wasn't really focused on Ryan Garcia at some point. It's not that Ryan looked bad. I think a few things. Emmanuel to go was not in there to win. Okay. Ryan had a huge size of advantage, both height and weight. You can tell. Ryan looked he's physically bigger. It looked like he's at least 2 divisions bigger than to go. What's up, Maker? Was good. But you know, when you're picking a fighter where Ryan is the clear favorite to win, you know, most of us is expecting him to get the knockout. You're picking someone that's not dangerous to, like, in the sense where yes, he boxes well, but he's not that much of a puncher. You know, Ryan seems to pretty much have all of the advantages going into the fight. But to go has very good survival tactics. He moved a lot. He was very slippery. He got really, really low, and Ryan couldn't really hit him clean. You know, he displayed displayed good defense, and that was it. You know, it was just like him moving around. You can't get me. You can't get me. I'm over here. He's just moving around the ring. He was really slippery, and he wasn't really responding with much. You know, and he would throw a punch here and there. He would land some jabs, and he was just surviving. That's it. You know, and that's the problem when you pick an opponent that is like, it was like when Conor Benn went to go fight a couple fights ago. What's his name? Conor Benn fought the guy that knocked out Amir Iman. You look him up. You guys know what I'm talking about. Just can't think of his name right now. Adrian Granados. Adrian Granados is like, shoot, that's even worse, because Adrian Granados is a guy that usually let his hands go. And then what did he do? He went in there and ended up running the whole fight, you know? And he won a couple rounds. He definitely outpointed like Ben in a couple of those rounds, but for the most part, he was moving, and Ben is now forced to chase him and hunt him down. You know, and Conor Benn is going to be fighting Chris Van Heerden. I'm sorry, Heerden. Chris Van Heerden is going to do the exact same thing. He's not going to square up. He's not going to be like Samuel Vargas against Conor Benn. You know, so all that moving, it just makes the fighter look bad. And it's like people pay to go and watch Ryan. Ryan's doing whatever he can because he's throwing, you know, he's trying to catch up to him so he can land something. The setups weren't great, though. I'm not gonna lie. He didn't make that much of a use of his jab. I thought he could have feinted a little better. And plus, he stands straight up and his chin is all the way up in the air. You know, he doesn't know how to change levels at all. He stands straight up all the time. And it's usually because he's trying to set up that left hook counter, you know? And like Ryan, like when I watch Ryan fights in a way where he wants to land that one punch. He doesn't want to adjust and change the ways he wants to land the punch. It's like, I want to land it the way I want to land it by standing the way I want to stand. And you know, it's just, it's not much of an adjustment. Like, I've never seen him really adjust to anything, you know? But he is good because I think see, I have a thing when people say when people are not ready. I think Ryan Garcia is capable of fighting any top guy at 135. When he beat Luke Campbell and he stopped Luke Campbell, at that point, I said he's capable of beating anyone at 135, or at least fighting anyone at 135. When people say he's not ready, people are usually saying, well, I don't think he can beat maybe a Haney or a Lopez or, you know, or Lomachenko or Tank Davis. Fine. You don't have to believe that he can win, but he should be in the ring with those guys, because a guy like Emmanuel to go, let's look at the rankings down at 135. A guy like Emmanuel to go, who's probably not in a bad position, you know, probably not the worst position. You know, he's a decent fighter, but he's just not in a position to really be a threat to guys like a Ryan Garcia. And what does he do? Instead of being competitive, I'm just going to show you guys that he's just not knocking me out, you know? And that's exactly what we saw with the Adrian Granados fight with Conor Benn that I was just mentioning. If he had went blow to blow with Conor Benn, he would have got knocked out. Instead, he changed it up and he just survived. And Conor Benn, after that fight, everybody's like, dude, this dude is overrated. He can't box. That's exactly what happens every single time. You know, you try to pick these guys to give them, you know, make these fights like very easy. and it ends up backfiring because yeah, Ryan won the fight clearly. It's a W. But now people feel like, and I don't think it helps his confidence at all. I mean, this is the same kid that is coming off of a mental health break, right? Do you think a fight like that makes him more confident? I don't believe so. Because now he's with a new trainer, and now they got to throw him in there with somebody else that he can hopefully knock out because the Emmanuel to go fight really didn't do him any justice. So now we have to waste more time and put him in there with someone else that we don't care for, someone that we're not asking for Ryan Garcia to fight. So I just think that again, it wasn't a good performance based on his opponent. Some fighters are just not good at hunting and chasing guys down. Triple G is one of those guys that's good at cutting off the ring. I mean, even Canelo at one point wasn't really good. I mean, we saw what happened in a Lara fight. I mean, he wasn't good in that fight. He just didn't look good. Certain fighters are good at making you look bad, and they're good at surviving. I think if To Go was more advanced, I think he would have taken advantage of Ryan Garcia's. Like, I think Devin Haney, for example. If Ryan fought Devin Haney and he's just, let's say Ryan is the one that's coming forward. Like, if he came forward towards a Devin Haney like the way he did against Luke or Emmanuel To Go, Devin Haney is going to step right around him and counter him all night. See, To Go could move well, but he was staying on the outside and he was just trying to escape. He was trying to stay on the very edge of each corner of the ring. Guys like Devin Haney, they don't need that much space. Some of these guys move well enough to where they know how to step and pivot around you and counter while you're trying to turn and face them. And that's what certain fighters, not all of these fighters can do it, but if Ryan were to fight maybe a Tank or a Devin Haney, those guys would take, or Lomachenko, I mean, if he fought Lomachenko, that would be a complete disaster. That would be a disaster. A guy that moved that well against Ryan Garcia, but Ryan Garcia should be fighting people on that level based on his win against Luke Campbell. That win was no fluke. That was a legit win. But it was just bad timing because he won and then he went and took a mental health break. And now he has to build his confidence back up. He has to fight lower level guys in order to get back to where he was just last year. Let me read some of the comments. Mr. Vega says, exactly, Ryan has like 4 times bigger than that dude. No excuses. I think you guys are talking about Mikey Garcia. I'm assuming you're talking about Mikey Garcia and Spence, but I didn't go that far up. Dude says moving isn't running. You want to move To Go, literally spent the whole fight backpedaling. I think there is a difference between moving and running. Moving, positioning, resetting yourself because now you're trying to set something up. You're moving, you're backpedaling, whatever way you want to call it. And as soon the opponent gets to you, you're moving again. You're moving again. You're not throwing anything. He was rarely throwing anything. And especially in the first, and especially outside of the last couple rounds, he was doing a lot of moving without countering. Punches are being thrown at you. You're moving. You're going to another corner. You do the same thing. You go into another corner. You're doing the same thing. At that point, that's running. Moving and then, all right, I'm going to reset myself to see where you move again. Okay, I'm going to reset myself again. But you throw something, when you're going a long period and not throwing anything, not countering, it just looked like you were fearful and I'm just trying to survive. That's when I think there's a difference between moving. There's fighters that move a lot And there's fighters that use it as strategy because they're trying to set a trap. You're just moving and then moving again and then moving some more without really throwing anything. It's like, what do you're not even, you're not setting up anything. You're just kind of moving, outside of a couple of overhand rights that I seen him throw and caught Ryan with, it was rarely any of that, you know. That's why I say it's a difference between moving and running. There is a difference, but I don't think in To Ghost's case, it was more running than moving. Mr. Vega says Ryan needs to pick a sport, IG model or boxing. Can't do both. I think you can do both. I just think you got to be more of a boxer than an IG model. But you could be both. There's nothing wrong with being heavy on social media. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to attack him for that. But only thing I will say is that he uses his social media platform to try to make it seem like he's bigger than other fighters in the division. Like, yo, look how many fighters I got. I got more followers than you. Yeah, but you taking mental health breaks. All of this stuff, all this fame is getting to you, but you're using it to make to make it seem like other fighters are lesser than what you are or who you are. We know you from boxing. So your IG following, your followers doesn't really mean that much if you're not getting in the ring. What these fighters have less followers than you, but they're accomplishing more. They're going after like guys like Tio, even though Tio lost, guys like Tio, guys like Devin Haney, these guys are fighting better. They're going after better fighters than you are. Yet you're all the same age. Even Shakur Stevenson, who's at a lower division, but these guys are going after better. I mean, look at Fundora. Fundora is at the same age. Fundora is what, 24 years old? And look at the level of fighters he's fighting. I mean, look at even Virgil Ortiz. He's a golden boy fighter. But for the most part, Oscar has no problem with putting him in there with like top fighters. With Ryan, it seems like it's more protection. And including Jaime Munguia, I think it's more protection. Dude says Ryan's a KO loss waiting to happen. Luke Campbell just doesn't hit hard enough to do it. Yeah, and that's another thing. A lot of people, including myself, I think he is somewhat chinny. A lot of people say that same about Devin Haney. People think Devin Haney is chinny as well. I mean, it could happen, but I don't think it will happen unless it's against one of the top dudes. It got to be against a top dude. It got to be Lopez. It got to be Tank. Guys that could really punch. I don't think the other guys that are not real big punchers are going to be able to get the job done. Boxing Jim says Ryan is raw talent. I think he is talented, and this is why I think he should be fighting those other best guys. But the longer we keep saying he needs more time, the safer his fights are going to be. He needs more time. Well, I know they don't want to take an L, but how safe are you going to continue being? Because fights like last night are not going to really make you better. But I get it. You're with a new trainer, so you're working on things, but I think To Go was just a bad style to match up with, and especially with the way that he was fighting, Dude says, I think the Luke Campbell fight spooked Ryan and Oscar, and that's possible. That's another possibility. I think that's I felt that way with Jaime Munguia and Dennis Hogan. I think that if that fight wasn't in Mexico and it was in a neutral place where neutral judges, I think that could have gone either way. I think Dennis Hogan kind of got that fight. I think when those kind of fights happen, these promoters are like, all right, let me sit him down and make him like take it easy a bit. But I think the Luke Campbell win was a good win. It was legit. All right. So from Ryan Garcia, I guess what I'm assuming is they're gonna put him in there. they're going to match him up with somebody else that's not at the top, but someone that is more willing to engage. So I can see a Javier Fortuna, but you got to be careful with that because Javier Fortuna can crack. You know what I'm saying? Is that Javier Fortuna is easy to hit, and he's chinny himself. So that's someone that could be a little risky. You know what I'm saying? But we just got to wait and see. All right. But he's not again, Ryan is a good boxer overall. You know, he has the hand speed, he has his flaws, but who doesn't at that division? But he has the hand speed and power to connect with to fight anybody. You know what I'm saying? It's just that who are they willing to actually put him in the ring with? Not too many people. You know, that's the way I view it. All right. All right. So look, we're gonna go into the Erickson Lubin card. I didn't get to see the Brian Perella fight, but from what I'm hearing, I heard that Perella was robbed again. You know, I think Perella got I think he lost, or I think he should have won against Harrison in his last fight, but this was Harrison's first fight back since the loss to Charlo, since the loss of his father, and he just didn't look good in that fight. But I heard Brian Perella should have won this fight. It was a draw. I didn't check it out yet, so you know I have to get back to you on that one. All right, but Tony Harrison looked incredible. This is the best he's looked in a while. You know, I would probably say since the Charlo fights, even though he lost the second one, he looked great. You know, this is him at his best. So I think it's safe to say that Harrison is back at his best. And that's all that really matters. You know, if he takes an L in the near future, if they're gonna put him in there with Tim Tszyu, if they're gonna put him in there with Sebastian Fundora, if he takes an L in one of those fights or whatever, it doesn't matter because I know now for a fact that he's back. Like he looked extremely sharp in it. And let me tell you something. And I think the weaknesses that Harrison has is I think his endurance was always an issue. And I think he's always been a tad bit chinny. Especially in the later rounds. I think as far as his skills, though, his talent, I think he could possibly be the best guy at 154 that's been there out of all of these guys that's been there for what I'm including J-Rock. I'm including everyone. His skills are superb, but he's beatable, you know, because he can catch a good one and get hurt and get rocked and get stopped. We've seen it. Or he slows down, you know. He tends to get a little too comfortable when he's up big. And that's why I was watching that fight. When I was watching that fight against Sergio Garcia last night, I was watching it as good as Harrison looked in the first half. And I said, I don't know yet. I just want to see how this keeps playing out. You know, and that's why I was leaning towards Sergio Garcia for this fight because I just wasn't sure about how good Harrison is at this stage, you know, at this point in his career. All right. But very good performance, and I'm expecting Harrison to be in there with Fundora or Tim Tszyu, you know, because that's pretty much where it's at right now. Let's go down these rankings real quick at 154. All right, because this division has been a mess. I heard Patrick Chisera was on the undercard last night as well. He fought yesterday, and he got disqualified against like a random fighter, you know, who doesn't have a good record, and he got disqualified for a rabbit punch. All right, so he's not going to be around. All right, so you got Magomed Kurbanov that's around 2, which is a decent fight. That's a fight that Harrison can get into. I don't know who's ranked what, Liam Smith is still around. Jack Colkay is still out there. You know what I'm saying? Erickson Lubin, let's not even include him right now because he's gonna take some. He needs some time off. From that kind of punishment he took from this this Fundora fight. All right. But there's other people. There's still Michelle Soro out there. Terrell Gausha is still out there, you know. But there's not many, it's not many guys out there. It's not many guys out there. All right. So for Harrison, I can see I'm thinking Tim Tszyu or Sebastian Fundora or Magomed, you know, one of those three. You know, those are three fights that you win the fight. One of those fights, it'll put you right in position to get in the title shot because we know that Fundora and Tim Tszyu is right there, you know, and whatever sanctioning bodies they're in. At this point, they're right there to get they're close to getting a title shot. They probably wouldn't even want to fight her Harrison unless, you know, they don't want to go straight into the winner of Jamel Charlo and Brian Constano. But I think they should at that point. I think should just wait because that fight is coming up pretty soon. That fight is I think the first weekend of May, if not the first, the second. I think the first weekend of May is Canelo. The second weekend of May is Brian Castano and Jamel Charlo rematch. All right. So definitely got to look out for those fights happening. I think those fights are definitely possible. So let's talk about Fundora and Erickson Lubin. Great fight, fun fight to watch. One of the better fights, action-packed fights of the year. Man, that was a tough fight. Erickson Lubin, I hope he's good. Hope he's resting up well. And I hope he's going to be okay. He definitely, I think those are the kind of fights that take a little bit out of you. You know, not the Jamel Charlo knockout. Not when it's just one punch. This is the fight that kind of takes a little bit out of you as a fighter because of the amount of damage you took for 9 rounds. You know, the swelling that he got in that 7th round. That 7th round, I don't know if this was fight of the year, but I will say that the 7th round was definitely round of the year because Fundora was beating the crap out of Erickson Lubin, and out of nowhere, Lubin, I mean, he was turning his face and just his whole face was swelling on each part of his face. And Lubin came out of nowhere and went crazy on Fundora and dropped him. And if there was more time on the clock, I think Lubin would have definitely had his best chance of us stopping Fundora was in that round. Once that round ended and Fundora got some time to recover and Lubin was tired because I think he punched himself out in that flurry he did, it was over. But we go back to the beginning of the fight. Lubin looked good in the first round. He was doing exactly what he needed to do. But that second round, Fundora came in on the inside, made it a fun phone booth fight. Lubin stood his ground and fought Fundora's fight. I mean, I've seen Lubin fight well on the inside. He fights well on the inside. He does. But it's so weird that Fundora is actually a much better inside fighter for his length. You wouldn't think that he can throw those uppercuts from those angles like the way that he does. He's very dangerous because he's not traditional, you know. And guys at 154, guys that are that short, they're not used to fighting guys that tall. You know what I'm saying? If you're not at least light heavy, you're not going to be used to fighting guys that are 6'5" and a half. You're not going to do it. Like your preparation, you would have to literally probably fight other heavyweights. You know, how do you really prepare for a guy that skinny that can get those punches through at that close range, you know? And listen, a lot of the punches are not that effective because Fundora is kind of smothering himself. But Lubin made a big mistake of staying in the pocket with Fundora in that second round. He got dropped. He paid for it, and he took a lot of punishment. He almost got stopped in the second round. Um, I think he rallied the third, fourth, and fifth rounds. I remember the third. I think Lubin probably won the third because he rallied strong in the second half of the round. And I think in the fourth and fifth rounds, the last 30 seconds or so of those rounds, Lubin would rally strong, but just wasn't enough, in my opinion, to get the rounds. Now, the judges actually had the fight scored for Lubin. All three judges, including the unofficial Steve Farhood scorecard, had it for Lubin. I didn't have it for Lubin. I had Fundora up like maybe a round or two. All right. So the judges were seeing it completely different. They each had like Lubin up a round or two, even with the knockdowns. Well, they both scored a knockdown. So that would cancel each other out. But I didn't think Lubin was winning the fight. I think the fight was very close, and I think Fundora was edging it, but I don't think Lubin was winning the fight. I was actually shocked to see that. I think I was tweeting a little bit about that last night. I don't know how you feel. Let me know how you guys feel about that in the comments. Do you guys feel that Lubin was actually winning the fight before it was stopped in the ninth round? Let me know. And it was stopped because Lubin's corner actually threw in the towel. All right. But let me know how you guys feel about that. I think at the end of the ninth round, when Lubin came back to his corner, they stopped the fight. Lubin was taking a beating in that ninth round. All right. I think the rest that he had left in him was left in the seventh round. But I don't know. I think Fundora was edging it, in my opinion, even though the judges had it differently. All right. But Fundora, I think he would beat Tony Harrison. I think he would be the same. He would bring the same issue that Jared Hurd brought. Jared Hurd with his size and his power and his relentlessness and his pressure and his punch output is just too high. And I think Fundora would even be better because of his size and everything. Like, he's even taller, and his inside work is crazy, and Tony Harrison, the problem is, as skilled as he is, he tends to like keep his back on the ropes. He tends to like fall into that trap and fighting his opponent's fight. And I think the same would happen, like, as I was like saying to Lubin, like, what are you doing? Why are you fighting his fight? Like, why are you fighting his fight? Get back on the outside. I think Harrison would do the exact same thing, and I think he would take too many hits. And I just think I just don't think he has the endurance to run with Fundora. So if that fight were to happen, I would be leaning towards Fundora. Now, if Fundora and Tim Tszyu fought each other, that would be a great fight. Tim Tszyu got, the power. He can definitely bang. But even in that fight, it's a battle of endurance, man. It's really a battle of endurance. And I think Fundora, what makes him so hard to beat is if you can't knock him out, if you can't really go punch for him, it's like it's going to be hard to beat him. The thing with Sergio Garcia is he was able to throw a lot of punches, even against Tony Harrison. Even in that defeat, he was still able to keep that volume going, he was able to match Fundora's volume in their fight, and that's what made that fight so debatable. But I don't know if Tim Tszyu is able to do that, because Tim Tszyu doesn't really throw a lot of punches like that. He really doesn't. I know he's definitely powerful. He can definitely bang, but he doesn't throw a lot of punches. So I would probably be leaning towards Fundora in that fight as well. Now, if Fundora were to fight a Castano and Charlo right now, like today, I think I would be leaning for Castano and Charlo to beat him right now. And when I say right now, I mean like today. Maybe not a year from now. I'm talking about right now. because this kid is getting better with every fight. I think Charlo would actually hurt him. And that's the thing. I don't think Fundora can take those punches from Charlo. And I think Castano, with his boxing ability and his volume and his pressure, I think he will be seeing a better version of what Sergio Garcia was doing in their fight. Castano throws a lot of punches, too. He has great cardio. He can sit there and bang with this kid, but he can land more clean. He's more precise puncher. He's a better. I just think he's a smarter fighter than Fundora, but he can match his volume. So I would probably lean towards Castano for now, and I will lean towards Jamel just based on his power. But Fundora couldn't beat those two by the same tactics, with the same tactics, in my opinion. But I do believe, he beat Lubin now, and I do believe he would beat Harrison. And I think he probably would beat Tim Tszyu right now, depending whether or not if Tim Tszyu can hurt him. All right. Lubin was able to hurt him, and I figured Lubin was going to be able to hurt him at some point in the fight. I didn't think he was going to hurt him the way he hurt him, though. I thought Lubin would hurt him with a body shot, All right. Mr. Vega says he believed that Lubin was winning. Okay, I mean, listen, maybe it was just me. I honestly thought Fundora was winning. Eddie Morales says, I think Fundora gets stopped by Charlo in a competitive fight. Yeah, I think Charlo is just packs too much of a punch, and Fundora is just way too easy to hit, and I think he hits harder than Lubin. I think Charlo is going to catch him with something heavy, and Charlo is good endurance, you know what I'm saying? Good conditioning. He can fight. He doesn't really get gassed as easily as some of these other fighters. Fundora don't know how to use his height. Well, this is the thing. Fundora doesn't use his height. I mean, he does, but not in a way that's traditional. He actually didn't you can tell that he was being outboxed on the outside. So in that sense, yes, on the outside, he doesn't use his height, his reach that well. But on the inside, he's actually an inside fighter. He's proven to me that he's more of an inside guy. That's where he's more comfortable at, and it works. Because these smaller fighters, he knows how to hit these. He knows how to be up on your chest and hit you with clean shots on the inside with those long arms, and I think the problem is those smaller guys are not used to fighting someone that size that's able to hit them with those kind of shots, So anyway, all right. So listen, that's my weekend wrap up. And just want to talk a little bit about Spence and Ugas and this fight card that's coming up. All right. And I said it's a great fight card. You got Ugas and Spence, which is, is a good fight. It's a 3-title unification. We got Butayev against Stanionis, who are both the WBA. They're pretty much the number 1 and 2 guys, and they're supposed to be they're fighting for their title shot. They basically have the WBA junior belt. This is what they're fighting for on this card. They're both undefeated. One is Russian, one is Lithuanian, and they're both good to go. I'm leaning towards Butayev in this one, but I'm definitely going to do a breakdown this week as well for that fight. Then you got Cody Crowley versus Josecito Lopez, which is another great fight. Cody Crowley was just we seen him recently fight. Who's the undefeated fighter he beat? Abdurakhimov. That was a great fight. I can't remember what undercard that was, but that was an excellent fight. And I'm looking forward to seeing him fight Josecito Lopez. I think that's a good fight. I know you guys might not be familiar with him, but Cody Crowley is a good fighter. Saw his last fight, was very impressed by him. His fight against Josecito Lopez should be a good one. All right. You got Isaac Cruz fighting Yuriokis Gamboa. Again, I kind of wish Gamboa would retire at this point in his career, but he has a name, and these guys that's on the come up and looking for a little bit more fame, they're gonna get in the ring, and they just want that name to be on their resume, because Gamboa at one point was a top prospect. He was a pound for pound guy for a short period of time, and people are gonna still want to get in the ring with him as long as he's willing to take a paycheck. But Isaac Cruz, who just had that close fight with Tank Davis, he's fighting Gamboa. You got Francisco Vargas on the card. You got Brandon Lee that's gonna fight Zachary Ochoa from Brooklyn. That's gonna be on the card. Brandon Lee had one of those crazy knockouts of the year type knockouts in his last fight. So yeah, there's guys that's on this card, and there's some good fights on this undercard. And when it comes to Spence and Ugas, yo, man, I mean, I want Spence to win. Like I said last night, I want Spence to win because I want us to get the super fight. All right. But Ugas, you can't sleep on him. Ugas has been in there with a whole lot of people, and I always say with him, you can't sleep on him because of I know people are going to look at his resume and see all these losses. These losses was at 140. I believe he was too big to be fighting at 140. First of all, he's probably drained in these fights because as soon as he moved to 147, we seen a different guy. Questionable losses to Sean Porter. Just coming off of the win against Pacquiao. And I know Pacquiao was 42 years old or whatever age he was. But he beat Pacquiao. He has experience. Another thing about Ugas, you gotta understand, he's been in there with a lot of southpaws, and he's good at fighting them. In fact, some of his best performances were against southpaws. Brian Perella was one of them. All right. Ray Robinson was another one. Manny Pacquiao, Omar Figueroa, a guy could just switch from righty to southpaw. One of his best performances. Guys that fight southpaw, he fights good against. All right. He's good against southpaw. So listen, as far as the matchup is concerned, Ugas, phenomenal counterpuncher. All right. Good timing. Big guy at 147. He's not no small guy that you can just bully and push around. He's a big fighter at 147. Good counterpuncher, a lot of experience. Great at fighting southpaws. I think he's better at fighting southpaws, honestly. He's good at fighting southpaws. He's active, more active than Spence been lately. I think I'm not going to go as far as saying that this fight is 50-50. It's not 50-50 to me, but it's 60-40 to me. Spence hasn't been that active. He's coming off of an eye injury, which is probably my biggest concern about this fight. Because you don't want to re-injure that eye, and if he gets caught with a shot good enough, you just never know. So I am a little bit concerned about Spence. The one thing that's good about Spence, though, is he's in his best physical shape that I've ever seen him in. All right. He looks ripped, and he's been fit before this fight was even announced officially. He was already in fighting shape. All right, which is good. And I think he needs to be, because if he takes this fight, and potentially take a Crawford fight after, you would need to be in your best shape. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that he's been, I've seen him in interviews. I'm glad that he's taking everything very seriously at this point, living a healthy life and being fit all year round. I think at this stage you got to be, because you're fighting, let's look past 147 for a minute. Let's say you fight Ugas, you fight Crawford, win or lose. Don't know where you're going from there. But if you are going to go up to 154, it's not going to get any easier up there. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to get any easier from here on. So you might as well be at your best shape. There's not going to be no easy fights from here on. And if you stay at 147 or whatever, you might have to fight Virgil Ortiz. That's a fight that's going to happen at some point. Whether it's at 147 or 154, it's going to happen. These are two Texas boys. They're going to fight. They're going to make money. They're going to have that fight right in Texas at some point. All right. And it's another potential opponent in the future. Is never going to get easy from this point. He even said that he's willing to fight Jamel Charlo. You just never know. At this point, you got to be in your best shape. You have to be. Young Hollywood definitely making prediction videos on this fight for sure. In fact, I'm gonna start my film study today after I'm done with this video. So excellent fight, excellent matchup. I say 60-40. I'm leaning towards Spence, but you never know because Spence has not been that active. All right. He had that car accident. He beat Danny Garcia, which is in my eyes, it was an elite tune-up for me because Danny has never done anything against top welterweights. He's never beaten any of them. And I thought matchup-wise and styles-wise, I thought Spence was a nightmare for him going into that fight. Even coming off of the car accident, you know? I think it was all about the car accident. Is he good? Is he durable? Can he take a punch? It was all about that. And he passed that test, but he had the eye injury. He had to pull out the Manny Pacquiao fight. So he had another layoff and didn't fight at all in 2021, you know? So I think it's a real shot for Ugas. I think if he ever had a shot winning against Spence, it would be now. You know, Spence fought Danny Garcia in 2020 and fought Sean Porter in 2019. You know, he's not that active. So I think there is a chance. This fight is going to be this Saturday on Showtime pay-per-view. And I should be on here live. Should be on here to cover the fight live. All right. So yeah, so be on the lookout for the breakdown. I think I covered everything. I covered the weekend fights, and you know, we should be able to do more content this week on Spence and Ugas, you know. Maybe get a weigh-in. Well, I'll do the breakdown. I'll probably have the breakdown up within the next day or two. Maybe do a break, a weigh-in live watch. Maybe we'll do that because this is a big fight. And cover the fight Saturday night. All right. So I look forward to making more content this week on that. Also be on the lookout for a breakdown between Stanionis and or at least a prediction video. Maybe not a full breakdown, but at least a prediction video on why I am leaning towards Butayev though. All right. But I'll probably do a video of that. I'll probably do some field study on that as well. And that'll be it. All right. So anyway, I'm out of here, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Sunday. I'm about to get some food. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button if you haven't already. And I'm out of here. Peace.